Talk Nebraska football here every Thursday this week. All right. Big Ten Media Days, of course. And we may have some more interesting things to hear about from Greg. So we'll get to that for the next 60 minutes. Leave those comments and questions there in the live chat. You know the deal. You ultimately produce the show. Greg Peterson on 3 right here to break it down for us. Greg, welcome back.
Hey, thanks. Thank you, Mark.
2 days later.
It's good to be back. And boy, I wish I could have talked to you on Tuesday night there from Indianapolis, but I didn't have my charger for my laptop, and it wasn't working. no dice. But very happy to be home. I just got home 2 hours ago from Big Ten Media Days. A full day late and $1 short. But
and Greg didn't even walk home.
Hey, it's lucky I'm home. Just I mean, all things considered. But yeah, it was just the craziest travel week that I have ever had in my career and in my life. It was just a nightmare. But we made it. We were there, and all in all, everything worked out in the end. And Nebraska got in and out. I wish I had their schedule. They got in, they got out. They were there for 15 hours, including sleeping and getting up and doing media days.
Now, it's supposed to take you how long to get from Lincoln, Nebraska to Indianapolis?
Well, the problem is that there's not a direct flight from either Lincoln or Omaha to Indianapolis. So obviously you got to connect somewhere. And keep in mind at the time when you're booking travel for these events, when you find out the dates for it and the schedule on when teams are going to go on what day. Obviously there's 2 days of media days, and it splits the conference up. So you try to book things, and this during COVID as well. So things are a little screwy. So you try to book things the cheapest way you can. So this was kind of splitting things up on American Airlines going down there, leaving from Omaha, going through Charlotte, and then to Indianapolis. And coming home was on Delta, going through Minneapolis to Omaha. So we land, everything's great. We land in Charlotte, get off the plane, and my boss, Robin Washit, and get off before myself and Steve Sipple. And when Steve and I get off the plane, my boss tells us that our flight's canceled. And now we're in scramble mode. And keep in mind, I'm the only one that checked their luggage, because I have to carry all my gear with me as a carry-on. So I break the rules, and I bring a tripod and a camera and a backpack on as my carry-ons. And so we're in scramble mode at this point. We get all 4 of us booked on a flight to Cincinnati, and we're going to drive to Indianapolis. And, that's fine. So,
and not to interrupt, Greg, you left at what time in Lincoln or Omaha, and when did you need to be in Indy?
Okay, so Central Time, our flight left Omaha at 1:30 in the afternoon.
Okay.
We landed in Charlotte Eastern Time, I believe we were early. We landed early, about 20 minutes early, I believe about 4:20 and Eastern Time. And, our flight was scheduled to, we had about a 30-minute layover before our flight to Indianapolis. So we get booked on a flight to Cincinnati, and we rent a car. And so you keep looking at the monitors, and that flight to Cincinnati keeps getting delayed. We're sitting there, we're grabbing a bite to eat and a few adult beverages, and we just keep watching our flight delayed. It ended up like a 4-hour delay just leaving for Indianapolis. And or leaving for Cincinnati, I'm sorry. And so we finally get to Cincinnati, and it's, I don't know, almost midnight, 11:30, and my bag's not there. And we got the car waiting. Everybody's waiting for me. I'm watching the carousel, waiting for my bag. Finally, I'm just like, I give up. And I asked a couple of ladies walking by, I said, where's the baggage, claim office? She's like, what flight are you on? Blah, blah, blah. What airline? And it turns out that she's the one that works the office. And so she's like, come with me. I fill out all the paperwork and everything. And all the people milling around right there, all of a sudden, boom, come in line behind me. And, I look at her. She's like, takes me in the back. I'm like, no, not here. And so I'm like, I got to go, filled out the stuff. So we left. We drove. We got to Indianapolis at 3:30 in the morning. And credential pickup at the Lucas Oil Stadium was at 8:30. The line opened up, and Nebraska started at 9:15 at the podiums. So, we got over there as quick as possible. I got 1 hour sleep. And I had to borrow a polo from Steve Sipple. And I'm still wearing the shorts and the underwear and the socks that, I traveled in. And so I look a mess. I don't even have a comb. I have to shower. I don't have a toothbrush, nothing. I feel disgusting. I had to come. Steve's like, here, I got an extra brush. It's all full of Sipple hair. I'm like, I'm not using that. So, I'm just, I'm doing this. And so I go over there and doing a video after the thing is out of the question. It's not happening. And so we get over there, and the one thing that I had all my gear, but the one thing I'm missing is my charger cable for my computer. So that's an issue because my battery only lasts about 5 minutes without the charger on it. But we get there, we get in line, and we're there at like 8:10, and we're first in line, and the only people there are all the Nebraska media. There's nobody else. There's nobody else that's showed up yet. And, we're getting, it's about 8:15, and they come out and say, we're going to open up the line here at 8:30. And so they go back in, and they're just standing around talking, doing nothing. We don't understand why we can't get in. I mean, let us in. We got to go set up. The only people that can get in early are the radio people. So it was just, we're all just standing there. It's like, well, come on, let's go. So we get in there, we do our thing, and we get our work done. Everything's good. The highlight of the night is going out to dinner on Tuesday night. So Wednesday starts up. I get a call from American Airlines. Oh, your bag just showed up in Cincinnati. I'm like, great. Well, I'm in Indianapolis. I leave to go home tonight. And they're like, okay, well, what do you want to do? I was send it back to Omaha. And so, okay, they send it back to Omaha. I get a phone call later. Hi, your bag just arrived here in Omaha. I'm like, great, I'll be there tonight. Or, this is the next day, Wednesday.
Yep.
And it's like, okay. And so we leave. We're leaving at 7:00 Eastern from Indianapolis, going to Minneapolis, and then to Omaha. And we get on the plane. The captain announces, we've had some problems with our air conditioner. So right now we're on a ground unit. And once we unplug, it's going to get a little bit stuffy in here. But, until we get the engines running and can switch over to the air conditioner. And so, we back out, turn around, and start to taxi out. and the engines are starting up, and everybody's got their monitors with their TV on and everything, and all of a sudden everything just flickers and goes out, and the lights in the cabin flicker and everything and go in and out, and everything comes back on, and you couldn't really use your touchpad. Nothing was responding to it, and all of a sudden you start smelling this like burning rubber, what have you, and this is like I had gone out Tuesday night and walking around downtown Indianapolis at 6:00, and I find a TJ Maxx open, and so I buy a pair of shorts and 2 T-shirts and a 3-pack of underwear and a toothbrush, and then we go out and we go to some Mexican place. And that was the highlight of the whole trip. That was fantastic. But we're so exhausted, we just went to dinner and had a couple of drinks and we called it a night. So, fast forward again to on the plane, and all of a sudden you're smelling that, and then the cabin just fills with smoke. And, the captain gets on the intercom and he's like, folks, I'm sure you can see the smoke in the cabin. We're going to have to turn around. And all of a sudden, 5 of those big fire trucks, those airport fire trucks, are coming out, and they're surrounding our plane. And we get turned around and start coming in, and all the fire trucks pull out, and we're following the fire trucks. And we get back to the gate, and they surround the plane again. And the captain gets on the intercom and says, all right, we need to have everybody deplane right now. Don't even grab your stuff. Get off the plane in an orderly fashion. So I'm sitting there, and I've got my camera underneath my legs, underneath the seat. I'm like, well, hell no, you're not leaving that there. And because I was sitting in an aisle seat, so boom, I pop out and I grab my backpack with all my gear in it, and I'm like, tripod, I don't care. So everybody kind of files off, and we all everybody grabbed their backpacks at least. And, we get off the plane as quick as possible. And, it's just like, how can this get any worse? We've already been playing, planes, trains, and automobiles at this point already just to get there. And so they're like, well, they're waiting there. They're like, okay, we'll let you back on to get your stuff. So I ran down there to get my tripod, and there's 3 firefighters at the cockpit entrance, and they're letting you get your stuff. And so then they announced that we're gonna try to find another plane.
Uh-oh. Greg's run of bad luck has followed him home. But at least he's at home and he's safe and sound and everything's good. And he can get a good night's sleep, I guess, tonight. But unfortunately, he's out. Hopefully we're not out. No, looks like we're here. So if nothing else, I'll tell you what I took from Big Ten Media Days. But hopefully Greg makes it back here. Yes, never mind me and Mike. Okay, I'm good. All right, we will wait for Greg. There he is. Hey, Greg, can you hear me?
Am I back?
Greg, are you back? Are you back?
Am I back?
As soon as you left us, I just figured, well, that's par for the course.
Yeah, obviously my charger came unplugged there. My computer died for a second. Sorry about that.
No worries.
So anyway, to pick it up where I was, So we didn't mess around. We're sitting there. They're like, we're going to try to find another plane for you. And boom, we just like, we're not even going to bother with this. We're going to get a car, just drive. And finally they're like, they find another plane and we're not messing with it. We just bolt out to go get our car. And they didn't end up getting back or the plane that we would have been on wouldn't have even got to Minneapolis. I think it got there at about 1 a.m. or so. So we drove to Peoria, Illinois last night in a minivan and stopped there and stayed at a hotel down there in downtown Peoria. Beautiful spot, I'm telling you right now. Actually had a beautiful view of the Illinois River from our room when we woke up this morning. So that was cool. But then we drove the rest of the way. We stopped at Iowa City to grab a little bite and fill up with gas. And boy, we finally made it back. Like I said, about 4 o'clock. I went to my chiropractor appointment and then right back to here. And we got practice in the morning. So heck, it's on, brother.
You've got quite a checklist of traveling issues right there. I would have to say that I've had all those things happen to me, but just not on the same trip.
Right. It's just
all put together.
And you know what? It's funny. Last night we're driving in the pitch dark, going to Peoria, and we're just joking around. It's like, you know what's going to happen now is we're probably going to hit a deer, and we're like an hour in, and all of a sudden there's a big buck standing right on the side of the highway. He with a big old rack on him.
Ooh,
and luckily he was looking down, and was occupied with something. But this is like, whoa! Yeah, it just and then to top it all off, yesterday morning, we had a late checkout, 4 o'clock. And so I'm laying there, and all right, Steve Simple he went to go do the radio at like 6:30 in the morning, so he left really early. And Steve and I's room, we were in a 2-bedroom suite, and the door to the place, it wouldn't shut. I mean, you had to slam the thing. It was crazy. So he didn't want to slam it that early in the morning, and so the thing was open. And so I'm laying there in bed. It must have been like 9 o'clock, and I had Sports Center on. I'm just laying there in my skivvies, and all of a sudden the maid opens my bedroom door. Hello? I'm like, get out of here. She's like, the door was open. The door was open. I don't care. Get out of here. And I mean, you can't make this up. I mean, it's every step of the way. It's just crazy. I mean, everybody's just like, it's so funny because we've had travel problems with going to the Big Ten Media Days in the past. We've had problems coming back from the Gator Bowl. We had ended up having to drive home from Orlando one year, and 1 year we missed the whole Nebraska Media Day part because we couldn't even get off the ground out of Lincoln because we were flying the same day, which was stupid. And we sat there on the tarmac, came back, went back out again, came back, and we all ended up sitting there that day watching Scott Frost at the podium and everything on Big Ten Network in the airport. And by the time we got there, it was over with. We were still there for another, 2 days. That was crazy. Luckily, at that time, my intern Grace was she was interning also for the Big Ten Network, so she was already down in Chicago, and she drove down there. So I put all my gear in her car, so she drove it down there, and I was only traveling light, except for the stuff I need. And that saved our butts that day because I had 2 of my cameras there with her and tripods and all the microphones and everything. And she handled everything herself while we were still en route to Chicago. So that saved our butts that day. But yeah, we have a curse with Big Ten Media Days. And we've already agreed next year we're driving. we're not taking any chances next year. Because, right now at this time of year, everybody's trying to finish their travel. And there's just so many people trying to travel and a shortage of airline workers. And, it's just nuts right now. And you hear all the reports all the time with all these cancellations and stuff. And yeah, we just lived it on top of maintenance issues and everything. So, well, it's just nice to be home. I'll tell you that. And actually having a change of clothes and a shower and everything. The whole 9 yards. So
I'm looking up the drive from Lincoln to Indianapolis.
Oh, it's brutal.
It's 10 hours.
Yeah.
I've got 643 miles, 10 hours.
Back in the day when I was based in Nashville, I would drive from Nashville to Lincoln, 12 hours straight drive. I would stop twice to go to the bathroom and gas up. And 12 hours doing it by yourself, that's about my limit. I mean, it was hard to keep your eyes open there.
I'm surprised it's only 12 hours from Nashville to Lincoln.
Yeah. Straight up on the nose.
Well, if you're going to drive it next year, you got a 10-hour drive.
Yeah, and you got 4 people and you split it up. That's not too bad. Think about it.
Well, as you were unveiling your story, there were all sorts of people in the live chat that were saying, just drive. You should have drove. You should have drove. Well, you know that afterwards. So you were supposed to be back, what, like?
I was supposed to be back last night. I was supposed to be,
you were going to come back last night. I was
supposed to be home about 10 o'clock last night.
Okay.
I would have landed about 9. I would have landed about 9 in Omaha and then just had to drive home.
You guys were going to stay for day 2 anyway.
We always do.
Okay.
The only thing is I don't do anything on day 2. I don't even go over there. The only reason I'll go over there is to grab my media lunch and wait to go to the airport or what have you. So I didn't even go over there yesterday. So, I just waited because we had a late checkout. So I just hung around the hotel and kind of had a day off. So, but now I need a mental day off after all this.
Yeah. Well, I was on here all by myself on Tuesday, and I delivered what I heard out of Scott Frost and Trev Alberts, and so I gave my rundown. Everybody got to hear that. So,
yeah.
I want to hear from you.
Well, it was such a strange year for media days because Nebraska's on this accelerated schedule where they had to get back right away Tuesday night for fan day and started fall camp yesterday with practice number 1. So it was totally out of order. Nebraska took the individual podiums at 9:15 in the morning, where Kevin Warren didn't even come to start the whole thing until 11 a.m. The Big Ten commissioner. And so the Nebraska players, all 3 of them, came out at 9:15, and then Coach Frost comes out at 9:30. So they all went simultaneously. Usually they're staggered, so you can get everybody. So Coach Frost comes up. I went over. I spent 15 minutes with Garrett Nelson until Coach Frost showed up, and it started out. He started out great, and he did about 40 minutes. They have an hour allotted, and so it wasn't that long. He didn't take the whole time period. He even finished before, Quentin Newsom was still going, and Travis Vokaluk had just finished up. Garrett Nelson had already finished. But, it was a very odd situation. So, we got all of our stuff. You have to think at this point, too, that there's not a lot of the other media that's even there yet at that time because at that point, there's a big line standing out there to get in to the RCA Dome or to the Lucas Oil Stadium. So people are still just showing up, and so you didn't have a whole lot of national. You had some national guys there, but it was mostly all Nebraska media. So and obviously Coach Frost knows all the Nebraska media and everything, and we got everything we needed right there. So then after the program started, Kevin Warren did his 30 minutes. And then Coach Frost is obviously the first coach up at the main stage. And us Nebraska people didn't really think much of it. But once they introduced Coach Frost, they would say, okay, Coach, would you like to make an opening statement? And none of us even thought anything of it. He's like, no, I don't have anything to say. Let's just take questions, because we're kind of used to that sometimes. And sometimes he'll just start with an opening statement. This is kind of playing by his mood. But he'd already done everything. So he's like, no, I'll just go straight to questions. And which obviously has now created lots and lots of controversy in the media. I mean, that's kind of the story at a Big Ten Media Days now, that it's like he's kind of trying to dodge things or what have you. So yeah, I mean, until that kind of went out, I had none of us really had even thought about it. It didn't really faze us at all. So that's kind of taken over the whole thing with Nebraska being there. And, he didn't really talk about his players or anything. And there were some awkward moments there where nobody was raising their hand to ask a question. But, it was fine to us. And then athletic director Trev Alberts, we had a good 10 minutes with him after that was over. And, Nebraska took off. They went and got on their plane and went back to Lincoln. But my takeaway from Coach Frost is that he's still kind of, they're going to keep things close to the vest up until about the last minute. Nobody's really going to know, who the ones and twos are, until the last minute. I mean, obviously you have an idea who those are, but I thought he handled himself just fine, but it was just a strange circumstance that I think has been blown out of proportions about the whole thing. But
that he didn't make an opening statement.
Right. I think he was the only coach that didn't make an opening statement. So
I saw Lane Kiffin do the same thing at the SEC Media Days. It's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal. And I don't understand why it's being made a big deal. It's really confusing to me. But
because he's actually, when you think about it, he has left himself open to answer more questions about the things that everyone wants to hear about, rather than rambling on for 20 minutes about a bunch of stuff that people don't want to hear about. So he's actually left more time for the media to ask him questions.
Exactly. So yeah, he
didn't have anything to say.
I mean, he's got other things on his mind right now. But the three leaders that were there are obviously three of the they're the faces of the team this year, basically, as far as leadership wise. And Garrett Nelson's obviously the face of the team. He's the guy on the magazine covers and the one being talked about the most. And it is funny. I was sitting there, I had my tripod set up at Coach Frost's podium, and so I went over with my camera and plugged into the malt box there on Garrett Nelson's thing, and I went and sat in the first row, and I was waiting for him to come out. We were all sitting there waiting for him to come out, and he comes walking by, and I was looking down, and all of a sudden I see a big paw sitting there. I look up, oh, hey, Garrett, I do a fist bump with him, and then he takes the podium, and he's obviously he's been the most talked about, and he's getting most of the hype, and that's the way it should be, So I thought all three of them handled themselves outstanding while they were there. Quentin Newsom, man, he was looking sharp. He got a tailored suit at Gary Michaels Closures here in Lincoln. he looked like $1 million. So all three of them showed a lot of confidence, and maybe a little bit of disappointment, because of the disappointing seasons that they've been having lately, and I think they're all chomping at the bit to prove that they're a good team and everything. But obviously they had a lot of other things on their mind too. Getting back and starting practice, Wednesday morning. So, I think they handled themselves with class and did what they had to do. And then, obviously we get to see tomorrow. We have practice access tomorrow, so we'll hear from Eric Shenander and Travis Fisher and a handful of players after practice tomorrow, and then Monday morning we get our first photo video day. So we'll get our first look at some of these newcomers that we haven't seen yet, and kind of get an idea of the ones and twos and how guys are looking. So can't wait for that. It's just such a great feeling to be home right now. I can't even explain it.
Great to have everybody here. Great to have Greg here. Glad he made it home safely. Definitely. We've got a Huskers live show for you on a Thursday night. How about that?
Yeah.
We'll see you next Tuesday, most likely. So join us each and every Tuesday, 7 Eastern, 6 Central. Bring a friend next week. Do that.
There you go.
Because we will be breaking down fall camp as the guys hit the practice field starting yesterday, Wednesday.
Yep.
To get ready for the trip to Ireland and Northwestern in week 1.
But there's a lot of, it was such a strange media days, is that really there wasn't a lot of football talk going on. It was dominated by realignment talk. Yep. And it was kind of crazy that, and then, you talk a little bit about the Ireland game and it's funny that Nebraska's taking this all business wise, and if you look at the Northwestern side, Coach Fitzgerald saying like, hey, we're going to go out. We got a lot of activities planned. We're going to see the sites and all this stuff. And it's a very interesting contrast by the way these two teams are taking this trip to Ireland.
Yeah, that struck me the same way, because Frost said, sure, we're going to do some things, but it's a business trip. It's not a bowl. He said a number of times, it's not a bowl trip.
It's not a bowl trip. No,
We didn't earn it. We didn't do anything to earn this trip. It's just a trip on the schedule. So It's a business trip.
Yep.
Here's what I got from Trev Alberts. I'm just going to give you a list of what I heard on a side media session here. He basically was talking about the 80s getting together in the Big Ten. He thought it was very productive, said we didn't solve anything. He said, but at least we defined the challenges. We all got on the same page as to what the problems are, the issues, the challenges. Both Trev Alberts and Scott Frost both applauded the move and both called it a bold move of the Big Ten to go out there and make a major statement to get USC and UCLA to stabilize the league and obviously, make that statement of staying with the SEC. They were both asked about their relationships with each other. What did you take from that? Anything? Trev Alberts had more to say about it than Scott Frost.
Yeah, well, I think Coach Frost has to pick and choose his words wisely. But I know they're friends. It's obvious that they're friends, and they both want the best for the program. But I think right now, Scott Frost is under a ton of pressure. Everybody knows that. Heck, if you lose that game in Ireland, Trev Alberts might have to fire him. I mean, that's just the way things are right now. So I think Trev Alberts, he knows what he's doing, and he's given Coach Frost as much room as possible, while letting him know that it's time to put up or shut up. So and Coach Frost really doesn't try to go into his relationships with other higher ups or former mentors and stuff like that. He's a guy that keeps things pretty close to the vest anyway, unless you're in his inner circle. So I think it was exactly what I expected that they would say about the whole thing. So, to me, it's just another kind of a reinforcement on it's time to get it done. We've given you everything you need, and we've overhauled your coaching staff. We've tried to make things easier on you, and we brought in all kinds of new players, and it's time to prove that you can get the job done here.
And Trev Alberts would not commit to a win total. That's obvious. He wasn't.
No, he's not gonna. Yeah.
I
think at this point too. I mean, 6, 7, 8 kind of looks like the area to me.
Yep, I agree.
So,
yeah, I said the same thing the other day. I said, I think it's more than a win total. I think there's a way to look bad going 8-4, like if you get stomped 4 times. But I still think Scott Frost is going to keep his job if he goes 8-4, regardless of what it looks like. I think 8-4 is safe, and I think 5-7 is probably you're gone.
Yeah,
6-6 and 7-5 are more like okay. Let's look at injuries. Let's look at how the games went, and that's going to be the call in terms of one way or the other. 6-6, 7-5. I think.
Yeah,
that's probably the territory there.
And it's kind of a matter too that if you don't start the season 3-0, you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole. And I think the morale would really be demoralized. If you're going into Oklahoma and you're like 2-1, I don't think you have a lot of confidence in that game. I seriously don't.
Yeah, they're playing 2 group of 5 teams that they're going to be a 25 or 30 point favorite against. And Northwestern was pretty awful last year, and most people don't think they're going to be much better this year. So those are 3 games that they're going to be heavily favored. Yep.
Yeah.
Our guy Matt is asking about the offensive line, where it stands on a scale of 1 to 10.
God, I wish I could answer that question. We really don't know. I mean, that is the major question mark going into camp here. It's kind of funny. I've heard some names that they've kind of soured on. I don't want to mention that, but we need to see who's healthy. Obviously, we've talked about these guys like Teddy Prohaska and Bryce Benhart need to start playing up to their hype and their potential coming out of high school. And Turner Corcoran, where's he going to play at? And where are you at the center position? It's right now we really don't know. That's probably the first place that I'm going to look tomorrow when they let us in there, and I'm going to I want to size that up, and obviously I got to check out the quarterbacks. But there's a lot of potential there, and I think that the attitudes changed. So, it's just super hard to say what I could rank that right now on a scale of 1 to 10. But we all know that it better be a lot better than it has been here the last few years, and I think Mark Whipple is going to have a lot to do with the change there, and obviously Donovan Raiola as well. So,
Talked to Phil Steele today, and I sized up, the way it looks to me, and he pretty much agreed. And everything points in the upward direction from 3-9 for sure. And of course, they can't go 3-9 again. It just doesn't seem possible. Because you're looking at a team that was able to play Ohio State, Michigan State, Oklahoma as well as they did. They have an easier schedule. They probably, I believe, have a slight upgrade at quarterback. I don't want to
we don't know yet.
criticize Adrian Martinez
No.
to that extent, but I think they've made a slight increase. And I think that their additions, I think the transfer portal rating that they've been given is justified. I do think that they've upgraded themselves more than anybody in the conference in the transfer portal.
I agree 100%. Now we just want to see how it all gels together on the field. I mean, obviously, we can flip over to the defensive side first and say, you really like a lot of these additions that they've brought in, but we still have question marks. I really like the collection of rush ends that they have, but then the interior has a little bit of question mark on it, and who's ready to go, who's not ready to go, and so that's going to be interesting to watch. And then in the secondary, you kind of only, Quentin Newsom, the guy, that was there in Indianapolis, is really the only corner that we know is locked into a starting position. So we really don't know who's going to take the reins back there at safety at this point. So lots of question marks all across the board, and we talked about the offensive line, and then the tight end group too is a question mark in my mind. Without Thomas Fidone there. Travis Volkolek, I think, is in for a big year, but there's question marks after him. I mean, Chris Hickman, a guy that's had struggled with some injuries, and I was kind of shocked to hear last night Sean Beckton was on Sports Weekly, Husker Sports Weekly, and was breaking down that tight end position, and his concern is getting Chris Hickman's weight up there, and he said he wanted to get him up to 215, which is very disturbing that he doesn't have that much weight on him. And I mean, quite frankly, he is more of a wide receiver playing the tight end position, and then you got to hope that some of these other guys that came in that class with Fidone, like an AJ Rollins or James Carney, they start picking things up, and Nate Borkature is a guy that Sean Beckton wants to see some more out of, and Chancellor Bruinton's a guy that had some big moments last year, but he's also an undersized tight end. They brought in Chase Androff this year in the class, and we haven't had a chance to see what he looks like in person. We'll see him on Monday. So that's another big question mark. And then you got a whole bunch of new faces. Obviously the quarterback room and the running back room and the wide receiver room. But like we said, some of these additions look really nice. I mean, I believe Trey Palmer could be a 1,000-yard receiver. And then you've got a big time competition there at the running back spot and at the quarterback spot. So yeah, it's really going to be interesting to see how this thing all gels together, and kind of going back to Coach Frost and the pressure that he's under. That you bring in a Mark Whipple, a guy that's had a long illustrious career. A guy that's been running offenses at all kinds of levels. I mean, he's coached in a Super Bowl. He's coached a Pro Bowl, and he kind of joked that, I was coaching. I was the offensive coordinator in the Pro Bowl, and I had these 3 guys at quarterback by the name of Breeze, Manning, and Brady. It's a pretty good group to to coach, and so it's going to be interesting to see how Coach Frost's system and Coach Whipple's systems mold together. And Coach Frost, for the first time in his career, is handing the reins over basically to the offense. But you're kidding yourself if he's not going to be involved in some of that. So yeah, it's definitely a work in progress. So I really can't blame them for really withholding a lot of information at this point, because quite frankly, nobody knows what they're going to do. I mean, Northwestern has no idea what they're going to look like when they take the field there in Dublin.
And in Scott Frost's words, he said about getting involved in the offense, he said, I am going to be involved in the offense. I'm going to be hands-on still. He just said, for the first time, I'm not going to be game planning. I'm not going to be calling plays. And he said, if there's some things I want to check out on the defensive side, if for 2 straight days in practice, I just want to go hang out with the defense, I know that everything's good, and I can just hang out with the defense and see what's going on there.
Roger, you're leaving out our 5-hour layover in Chicago on that flight to Dublin.
Yeah, that has to be factored in.
You know what the cool thing is about this, though? So, we're flying out of O'Hare, and so when you go over there, you go through customs there, and this is the neat thing. This is the only place in the world, Ireland. You go through U.S. customs in Ireland before you get on the plane.
Okay.
So when you land in O'Hare coming home, you don't go through customs. You're free and clear to go. So I like that. I love that idea.
Yeah. Yeah, people want to be on their way when they touch down. You might as well get that out of the way before you board the plane. Why have issues? Why have issues in the other country?
Exactly. And then, I wanted to add too another thing about this whole overhaul that, everybody knows that special teams has been such a disaster. We were talking in the car. Robin Washut was writing his article, and he asked us all. He's like, "When was the last punt or kick return Nebraska had?" And you had to go back to 2019 with J.D. Spielman for that. And but actually having a real special teams coach in Bill Bush, I think, should make lots and lots of differences. And then, also Coach Frost can spend some more time with the special teams now as well. So that's another key part of turning around this program right now is stop giving away points with special teams and field position and putting yourself in the hole. And so let's see how things start looking under Bill Bush, which is a guy. He's a great guy and an incredible recruiter. So he's done it at the highest level. And I can't wait to see what the special teams unit shapes up to be.
Yeah, it really started with week 1. It ended with the Iowa game, and it was in between. It was that punt situation that pinned them down at the goal line against Illinois that created the safety for Illinois. The was it Joe? Who was returning? Cam Taylor-Britt.
Yeah.
Off the punt.
Yep.
Shouldn't have been in that position to try to field the punt. It led to the safety, got him off to a bad start. Then you fast forward several weeks, Michigan State, they lose the game because of they've got a touchdown lead late, and they give up the punt return touchdown. And then all the way to the end of the season, Iowa, they've got them down by a couple touchdowns, blocked punt, and it gets turned around for the Hawkeyes, and they give up the lead, and there you go, all the way through the season.
Yep. Never got any better. And it's just ridiculous. I was looking up some of those stats too, that when they're using position players, it's just a horrible yard average per return that it's just pathetic looking at it.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Absolutely. All right. Appreciate everybody being here at the Voice of College Football. This is our Nebraska show that we bring you typically on Tuesday. We did on Tuesday, but you got stuck just with me. So Greg was good enough to
I apologize. I mean, I had to get through. Okay, so I shot everything, and then I'm like, all right, my computer's only going to last me about 5 minutes without the charger. And so I went over and I sat down next to Robin, who also has a Mac. And I'm like, hey, can I use your charger? I'm like, where's your computer at? He's like, oh, I'm good. I'm at like 96. I'm like, okay. So I sat there with his charger, and I got all my work done. I got everything up. While I'm like, this is the nightmare of this is, okay, I go to upload, and the internet connection there is just pitiful. Uploading video is almost impossible out there, on the field there at Lucas Oil. I mean, I wanted to pull my hair out. So I found out through the grapevine that the lunchroom over there had a better signal. So here I'm carrying my laptop over, and I find an outlet, and I put my laptop on the top of a trash can by this outlet. so that's how I uploaded all my videos. And I finally got it done. And the weird thing is that while I was using my editing programs and everything, stuff that makes your computer work, it wasn't charging, and it kept dropping. Up until then, I was just uploading, and I finally started to get it go up, and I think it was about 46% by the time that I was done, and then I gave Robin back his charger. So it was every step of the way on this trip was just unbelievable. You had to find a way to get things done.
You do what you got to do,
and we did.
You do what you got to do.
Yeah.
All right, folks, bring somebody with you next Tuesday. Let's make that deal. Please like the video before you leave the chat, please. And share these videos out on social media. Of course, we've got the most people that we've had online the entire hour at the end. That is typical. So watch the rest of the video and check out what you missed. And of course, Greg's story off the top. Can't miss that. And again, bring some folks in here.
You just can't make this stuff up, man.
No.
You can't. It is funny that you're so upset the whole time. You're so frustrated. But then the whole drive home last night and today, we're all just laughing our butts off the whole time. I mean, the whole thing just ended up being so comical, and it's just you got a story for life out of this.
That's all you can do at that point. First world problems.
And my eyes are starting to water. I started laughing about it so much.
All right, Greg. Thanks for making it happen again.
Yeah, and like I said, I apologize to everybody for missing out on Tuesday. It just wasn't happening.
Everybody head on over to our Miami channel. We've got our Hurricanes Live show coming up here in just 2 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
It's there.
I will let you go then.